Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Louis D'Souza here. Today is Monday, January 21st, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, and Sydney, Australia is at around 12 midnight. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we were just chatting before the podcast, getting caught up on how our weekends were. And ours is decidedly cold, Louis, because we are at minus 3 Fahrenheit, minus 19 Celsius, and I've decided that's a good day to stay in and do podcasting. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Especially with wind chills that drive down into the minus 30, minus 40 range because we have 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. So, yeah, I think we're going to stay inside today. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, talking about that wind chill factor, when that kicks in, ooh.
Ooh, yeah. It just bites. It just cuts right through everything. Ooh. But not when you're in the nice, warm, comfortable house and you can just sit back and do your podcasting and feel good. So that's how my weekend went. How did your weekend go?
Again, more spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning.
in the winter.
Spring cleaning, yeah. You're always like a season ahead, aren't you, when it comes to that kind of thing?
I like being ahead of the curve.
Well, great. So let's see. Monday morning, first day of the week in terms of the work week for people who do the 9 to 5 routine, and it's the first opportunity we get to really set the tone for the week. So let's talk about processes for a moment. What are your favorite processes? How do you get your week going? I mean, you don't usually have too much of a trouble, I know, because you're pretty much high vibration most of the time. But what's your process? How do you get yourself going?
Process. A lot of people write things down, and I'm not one of those writing down people. So to me, I kind of work a lot on what Abram talks about when you go to sleep. Get yourself in a high vibration. When you wake up, and try and maintain that vibration. Mm-hmm. So and I try and kick that in for as long as possible. That is my goal. My whole life is just to extend that and extend that and extend that. And I get to about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and for something usually knocks me around the head, but it depends. Every day is different, of course, but it's getting better and better and better.
That's the key, isn't it? Making it better.
We want that universal law of attraction's momentum to kick in,
right? And
so you can roller coaster with it and ride it through the whole day. In the vortex.
That's my goal when I get up in the morning, is getting that momentum really, really started quickly. Usually mirror exercises immediately after feeding the cats. Feeding the cats always comes first. But then doing my mirror exercises, and I have my little vision video that I've created, and that's my minimum start for the day, just to feel good, just to give myself that pat on the back, say, come on, this is going to be a great day. Let's enjoy it. Let's have fun.
As soon as you said you feed the cats first, I was thinking of this airplane oxygen thing going through my head.
Yes, that's right. Put your mask on your own face first before you put it on your child's face.
Get into that happy place before you feed those cats, Clay.
That's funny. That's very funny. Well, this is also a Q&A, so if you're listening to the live stream on Facebook, feel free to add any questions you'd like to the comments section, and we will be glad to address them. That's actually something we love doing more than anything else, really, just helping other people to apply the law of attraction successfully in their lives. And we've had a lot of successes lately, I have to say, Louis. People reporting that they came in, they asked for some help with stuff, and producing some amazing results. Of course, there was Dee Dee about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, who was in the hospital facing emergency surgery. And with Nasha's help, Nasha helped to be kind of like the go-between. She told us what was going on, and Cindy Chavez kind of led us in a group feel-good. And it ended up that Dee Dee was able to avoid the emergency surgery. She got out of the hospital. She's on the mend. So, I mean, that's a great kind of result. Yeah, it's really fantastic. Nasha herself had an experience with her family that was very unpleasant recently, and we just were encouraging her to get into that good feeling place and stop focusing on all the things they did to her that they shouldn't have done to her and so forth. And there was an amazing family breakthrough a couple days ago where the rest of her family came to her and they were apologizing. Everybody was hugging, so sorry. Just an amazing turnaround, which is not something you see every day. That's pretty unusual, So that's pretty cool. Carlos of course, is enjoying the ascent of his Hollywood career, which is why he can't do the podcast anymore. Alex has a new boyfriend who is she's really, really tight with now, and interestingly enough, she's on the autism spectrum. She has Asperger's syndrome, and they found out after they met and got to know each other that he has Asperger's syndrome too, and they hadn't even made that one of their criteria to look for. So the universe matched up two people who had the same syndrome. It's like, whoa, cool stuff. So lots of good things happen.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing,
amazing stuff.
That brings up 2 points. One is, remember that podcast I did on my hernia operation that didn't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that if somebody hasn't heard that, it's an amazing story. Go back and listen to it. I'm going to be putting all my podcasts in order on my website so that I can refer to it as 1, 2, 3, or 4, because at the moment I'm not quite sure which one you have to go back to.
Yeah, right. They can blend after a while.
It's something one of the guys recommends who talks a lot about podcasts. He says, you really need to keep an eye on the numbers so that you can say, go back to podcast 12 or 10 or 27 or whatever it is, so that because you can link it to a specific subject or topic, because you don't really want to do them all over again when somebody can go back and access them on the podcast. And the second thing is, when you're dealing with people who are actively working with the law of attraction, it's fascinating because you'll find that they don't stand still. Okay.
This is true.
They don't stand still.
Yeah. Yeah.
The things change, and things change quickly.
They do change quickly, and ultimately, if you're living the life of your dreams anyway, if you're living the abundant life, why would you want to just stand still? I mean, what would be the point?
Exactly. Stand still is going backwards.
Standing still is going backwards. I'm going to have to work on that one a little bit.
Well, you know what you don't want? You really want to follow that rocket. You don't want to stay there in what you don't want.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. So,
so today,
yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about religion and the law of attraction, because it's obviously been a popular topic on the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group. So I thought it would be something very apt and appropriate to talk about. I don't know if you put that in as one of the things we're going to be talking about.
I don't think I actually did, but that's a good topic. Okay. It's a really good topic, and you're right. It is. It's kind of. It's getting a lot of play. Let's put it that way. Both in this group that we podcast to, and the other Law of Attraction groups. There's a lot of people who come into Law of Attraction for the first time and have questions like, "Well, does this run contrary to, say, Christianity, or I'm a Muslim. How does this affect Islam, or how about Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the other isms out there?" People are concerned, and quite understandably, because they've been brought up in their own particular faiths, and is this a challenge to their faith? They want to know. And
it is a process that I've been through myself. So I just wanted to lay out the different layers of it. First of all, I wanted to make it very, very clear that I'm not anti any religion in any shape or form. What I am very pro is alignment. Okay. So when you're in alignment with your higher self, you can be in that alignment in any religion at any moment in time.
And that's really what it's about anyway, because when you're in alignment, you're getting what you want. You're getting what you need, what's going to make your life satisfying, and that's when you're going to be most grateful, most appreciative of what's going on. So that also fits the religious mindset, being appreciative.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I believe anybody can get closer to source, and no matter where you are, no matter what religion, no matter when, where, how, whatever your situation, there's always the possibility of getting in alignment with yourself, getting into that happy feeling place, getting into that good vibe, getting into that focused clarity, and knowing what you want and going for it. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up. And I noticed that you liked one of the comments I did for one of the ladies. She said, does the law of attraction agree with with how God sees it or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Right. I remember that. Yeah.
And I said to her, how do you perceive God?
Yeah, I love that question. That was really good.
Okay. Because that is just a big challenge when I find a lot of religions are looking at God as something outside themselves, something they have to obey, something that is not inside them, basically, something that is bigger than them, is outside them, that they need to listen to, obey, as I say. So when you come to the law of attraction, that whole process of what you believe God to be changes quite drastically.
This is true. This is very true. By the way, I just overlooked something without realizing it, and I wanted to kind of make amends on it. I was naming a number of people who are listeners of the podcast who have had some really tremendous breakthroughs lately. And Siraj actually just shared a breakthrough that happened I guess it was.
Sorry, who was this? You broke up there?
No, this was Siraj who had a breakthrough.
Siraj. Hi, Siraj.
Siraj had been asking for advice because he was preparing to make a presentation to an audience of 500 people, and he was a little nervous because he had never presented to more than 30 or 40, and so we were helping him to build his confidence up and know everything was going to go well and so on and so forth. And he wrote today, I nailed it. My presentation was awesome in front of 500 people. Actually, there were 678 people. My company was expecting to grab at least 50 clients from that presentation, but I managed to grab 243 clients. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Well done. Sorry.
Whoa,
fantastic.
Way to go.
I'm so proud of you.
Fabulous.
Excellent.
Fabulous.
Another great law of attraction story, because I'm sure he was focusing very much on what he wanted and not what he didn't want.
Absolutely.
And then bang, the universal law of attraction brings it in.
Far more than you expected.
Brings the right people in.
That's the cool part, when it brings you far more than you expect. I love that when that happens. That's like, that just gives you the shivers.
So cool, man.
So cool.
So I wanted to talk about how I perceive God now.
Okay.
So God is now perceived as my bigger part, my bigger self, my soul. And I don't like really using soul. I do very much like Abraham's explanation of your non-physical energy before you come into this physical universe, and your non-physical energy decides to come in and play with the contrast in this time-space reality, and comes in and joins this time-space reality, and the bigger part of you brings in a physical body which it uses to play with this time-space reality and play with the contrast. So the way you kind of really understand it is that the God part of you, or the bigger part of you, is the non-physical part. And it's the part that never dies. And so you can say you are part of God, and that part of God never dies, and it changes manifestations in the physical universe, because I'm sure it's not only planet Earth we come to. I'm sure we go all over the place.
Celestial travelers, rather.
Yeah. So when you're starting to look at... Something's just popped up there. Siraj. Hi. Is he waving at me? So it's really, really fun when you start understanding that, because of all my out-of-body experiences and etc. You really come to the understanding that you're not this physical body. There is a part of you that's eternal. It's not an illusion. It's not something somebody made up. It's really real to you. You start not fearing death at all. You might have a problem with torture. Always try to get that right, you know.
Where did that come from?
Torture,
Holy cow.
I think I've been tortured many of my past lives. Of course, all by myself, but that's not the story. If you understand the law of attraction.
Yeah. Actually, you said something that kind of caught my attention, made my ears perk up a little bit, because you were talking about something that we often talk about whenever we talk about the eternalness of God or existence or source energy, which is you never die. And it occurred to me, why is it we don't say we live forever? Why do we say we never die?
Because we focus negatively, and we're still working from that perspective. We will get there. We will get where you are.
Louis, I don't even get where I
am. It'll become clearer, my son.
It'll become clearer, right? No, but seriously.
We 10 Hail Marys and 7 Fathers.
But seriously, I mean, we do have this very strong tendency to focus on death. And every time now, I consider this to be like a growth point for me. Every time I'm hearing that now, I'm thinking, I want to turn that around and focus on life. Because life is why I'm here. I'm not here to die. I'm here to live. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying death isn't going to happen. I'm just saying that's not my purpose. My purpose isn't to die. My purpose is to live. So I think I want to talk about living.
The interesting thing about that, Walt, is you start learning that you don't fear death anymore, but you start fearing a bit of life.
Yeah, there's some truth to that.
The whole thing gets reversed.
This is true. Yeah. I just think we should spend more time, celebrating the fact that we're alive, celebrating the fact that, we're still pushing the air in and out. And in the process of doing so, we have the ultimate opportunity to apply this law of attraction principle, to get into that good high vibration place and manifest the stuff that we want to manifest. I'm reminded that I think it's Abraham, a number of different sources talk about this, a number of different psychic personalities and so forth talk about how everybody on the non-physical side is focused on the physical side. All their attention is focused here because this is the leading edge. This is where all the stuff is happening. So Absolutely. If that's the case, as long as that's the case, if we're on the leading edge, if we're in the place where all this stuff is happening, I think we should be taking the time and making the most out of it. Saying, okay, I'm here. I've made it. Absolutely. I've gotten to the place where I want to be. Let's live. Let's really, really live. Let's talk about living. Let's be excited about living. And if life isn't going quite the way I'm going, I want it to go, well, I can still turn that around. But hey, that's no reason not to be excited about living. Let's be excited about it.
And then you get more excited, and then it gets more exciting, and then it gets more exciting, and then you start jumping out of your little bracket. It is really quite incredible because there is no fear anymore.
Yeah.
I'm picking my nose, and I don't care if you like it or not. I don't care.
That's the hard part about doing a video podcast.
You just stop caring about other people's thinking. You just stop caring. Hey, let's have a drink. Cheers.
Oh, that's funny.
There's vodka in here. Oh, it's clear. I don't know what alcohol is clear. I don't drink enough alcohol.
You don't drink enough alcohol? Okay, that's an interesting one.
I don't drink almost any. It was interesting when I was a young kid in the army. I just finished my basic training, and we had this big party, and we had our 2 free allocated beers, and it was quite weird because I got quite drunk on the first beer and I sold the second one for a couple of rand.
Okay.
And I really was very badly affected by this beer. And then we had this after party and I had some spirits and I was really feeling seriously not quite right. And, it's probably the most I'd drunk ever in my life. And I'd be super, super fit. So I was affected easily. So I went and I ran around the base. So it's a 5 kilometer run, and I came back stone cold sober. And then the next time I got quite mellow in the army, I broke a glass. And I also found myself fighting people who were trying to encourage somebody to start drinking. I was getting quite ratty about that. And I was quite interested in these things, and literally I've never gone past vaguely mellow in my life ever since. I've never puked. I've never gone anywhere, but I've never taken any drugs either. I've probably had more experiences than most people have ever taken drugs, but that's another story.
Well, that's probably true, yes.
That's another story. It just means anyway. You can have them in different ways.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to this thing. So you've got this group, and they're saying, does God conflict with the law of attraction? And everybody's saying basically no. Now, I would agree with them if they were talking about only the law of attraction. But when they start adding in some of the principles Abrams brought in, that's when the challenges come in. So the Bible does says, as you sow, so shall you reap, and so does the Quran, and in different words, etc., etc. All of them talk about the law of attraction. I've got no problem with that. They've got no problem with that. That's fine. But when you start adding in a couple of things that Abram does, and Abram says, your emotions are your guidance. 100% accurate, and your higher self knows everything that you want. And whenever you're feeling negative emotion, you know that your higher self is not agreeing with your thinking. And when you're feeling good emotion, your higher self is very much in agreement with it. So when you're feeling good, you got to carry on in that direction. When you're feeling bad, you turn around, you go the other way. So what do religions say? Religions say, I know better than you, often. And I will help you confess your sins in some religions. Mm-hmm. I will tell you what is right and wrong in your life. Okay. And B, they will not teach you that your emotions are your guide.
That's true. In fact, very often religion will ask you to squelch your religion. Or your emotions.
Your emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, I was brought up a Catholic, and I remember being at home with my first girlfriend I took home, and my dad was there, and he said, oh, you can't sleep in the same room. I said, why, Dad? He said, oh, sex before marriage and hell and all the rest of it. And I said, well, that's interesting, but I'm not a Catholic anymore. Actually, I'm not a Christian anymore. You know that. And he said to me, well, I am a Catholic, and I need to mention and bring this up to you. And, if you have sex before marriage, it's a mortal sin and you go to hell. And I said to him, that's fine, and from where you come from, but if I had to go to confession every day and confess that I've had sex every day, then I would be in the confession box almost more than anything else.
Okay.
And that ain't going to happen. And I don't feel guilty about it one iota. So what I'm trying to point out is that you feel good about having a good sexual relationship before marriage. And then the church wants to tell you, some of them, not all, some want to tell you that it is bad and it's sinful. Not only that, you go to a place where you're permanently separated from God, which of course we know is impossible. Mm-hmm. You're part of God. You're with the bigger part is with you all the time, and you can never get rid of it. You can drop the physical body, but you can't destroy the non-physical part of you. It's impossible. So you've got this dynamic going on that a lot of people are getting to that place in religion where they're ready to move forward, and they get to part of the law of attraction, and they can really blossom with it. Okay, there's no problem with that. But if you really get what Abram's saying is a belief is just a thought you think often. Mm-hmm. And your emotions are your guidance system. The only logical conclusion you can come to that, if you agree with that, it destroys all religions. It pretty much nails them all on their heads. Because really what Abram's trying to get across and what I'm really living and understanding now is the living word. They talk about it in the Bible, and they talk about it in many of the different religions. But the living word is your living guidance, and your living guidance is your emotions.
This is true.
So you've got this instant guidance which is saying, heading in the right direction, not heading in the right, heading in the right direction, not heading in the right, heading in the right direction, not heading in the right direction, and you don't have to go anywhere to get it. Mm-hmm. Nowhere. Absolutely no group, no thing. The thing that happens when you get it is you become so self-empowered. Mm. You don't go around saying you're God, but you could say you're part of God.
Sure. But
Okay.
But if you're really comfortable with it, you don't really need to. It's not that important to go around.
Exactly. There's no need to say any of that.
Yeah.
It's not a big ego trip or power trip or anything.
Right.
You're just comfortable that you have this guidance that has a vortex of everything that you want, which is the expansion from what you don't want. So when you know what you didn't want, I don't want to be rude to people. Wouldn't it be nice if I was nicer to people? Goes into this vortex and sits there. And you just want to be nicer to people that are sitting there. And if you go into step 3 and you allow it to manifest, then you end up being nicer to people.
Mm-hmm. It's true. By the way, you mentioned the concept of sin as well. Your father is saying, oh, this is a sin, you're going to go to hell and so forth. Cindy Chavez brought me a really interesting perspective on sin, one that I hadn't really heard before. While we were talking about Neville Goddard, she's actually been quite the student of religion, has studied all the major religions of the world, is in depth, really knows them very, very well. And she told me something that I checked and it turned out to be true. Apparently, the way many, perhaps even most Christian churches use the word sin is inaccurate. Because if you look at the original meaning of the word, its original derivations from Greek or whatever it is, ancient Greek, ancient Latin, I don't remember exactly which one it is. When you look at those origins, you find that to sin means to miss the mark. It does not have a moral context to it. It's just aiming at a target and missing the bullseye. And so when you are sinning, all you really need to do is just change your arm.
Mankind has turned that
Oh,
way.
yeah. So even
the screwiness comes from a God that is outside you, judging you, that something is right and something is wrong. And when you start looking at it, the whole right and wrong thing is, if you're wrong, if somebody says you're wrong, Walt, they're just wanting you to do what they want you to do.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's where religions make their money, because they're telling you what to do. The Austrians, my wife is an Austrian, and the Austrian people, if you're a Catholic, and 90% of them are, you, at source, before you get paid, the Catholic Church takes off 10% today.
Tithing.
Before you get your money, okay? Before you get your paycheck. Now, I don't know how the Americans would handle that, but I don't think they'd go down very well.
Well, they'd probably be a march on Washington. But,
even if they're Catholic.
Well, it depends where you are. I mean, there's some sections of the U.S. where that would go down very, very well. In fact, they'd say, yeah, we should make that a law. But, it's going to vary. We're not that, we're a rather diverse country in that sense.
Yeah, it is a diverse country.
But yeah, the whole thing about sin, I continue to
I was
be
shocked when I
that.
first heard that.
Yeah, it's surprising. But it's not all that surprising. And it reminds me, when you have religious leaders of any religion who take teachings and then mold them or twist them, or in today's parlance, spin them into the meaning that the leader wants that religious precept to have, what you end up with is people using religion to manipulate other people. Which I find to be quite. That's about as close to being offended religiously as I can get. I don't get.
Is when they use religion for political gain.
Well, not just necessarily political, just any kind of. I'm doing this for myself, but I'm trying to make you believe I'm doing it for you. The dishonesty of that just rubs me the wrong way. So I don't get religiously wrought, but that's as close as I ever get. Like. Get out of my face. That's the way I feel. Just get out of my face with that stuff. I remember one time and I've told this story before, when we lived in Virginia, I had about a 6-mile course that I would walk every day. And part of that trek took me through the middle of the small town that we lived in, through the downtown area. And along that route, there was an Episcopal church that I would pass every day, and I never really thought much of it. Well, one day I'm passing the church, and there's a guy out front, and it's pretty clear he's stopping passersby to harangue them religiously in some way. I said, "Oh, all right, well, I can handle this." So I'm walking along, and I didn't slow down at all. He was racing to keep up with me. Now I say racing because I think I've mentioned I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'8" tall, and I have a long stride. So when I get going, if you want to keep up with me, you got to be really motoring, right? So this guy's motoring along with me.
So he was serious to convert.
Oh, he was trying to get in front of me to talk to me and so forth, and he uttered the classic Christian line, "Have you been saved?"
Saved.
Have you been saved? And without thinking, without blinking, without even considering it, I just blurted out, "Sorry, no, I've never been lost." And his reaction was,
exactly correct.
He didn't know what to say to that. That person represented, though, the thing that I was just describing. He represented somebody who was trying to use religion to manipulate me for, I don't even know what the purpose was. Maybe to join the Episcopal Church that was there. I don't know what his goal was. But he was trying to set me up for manipulation, because the moment that you argue somebody needs to be saved is the moment that you're saying you, the person who needs to be saved, is inferior to me who's representing the ideal perspective. You are my intellectual slave.
Your big challenge comes with humans is when they're looking at other humans at any stage of their life, no matter where they're at, as broken.
Yes. Yes.
As soon as you're seeing somebody as broken, you've lost the plot. Okay? But what you can do is see them as perfect where they're at and growing and moving forward, and help them with the moving forward part by visualizing and expecting and encouraging them to move to a higher vibration. But if you see them broken, then everything gets screwy. Then everything goes into the negative emotion cycle, and it all falls apart. And I had a very, very similar experience. I mentioned it once many podcasts ago, but I'll go through it again because it was exactly the same thing as you. I was on the beach in Durban with Marius, my good friend, and he was a reborn Christian at that stage, although he was always coming back to me and actually followed what I was following. But at that stage, he was going through quite a strong reborn Christian connection, and we were on the beachfront. It was early in the morning, and there were a whole bunch of his church friends who were out there canvassing the white South African population, because 99% of them are either Christians or they're waning Christians, and they were gunning for the waning Christian to convert them into their church, which was a reborn church in Durban, which was very popular and very full. And he walked up to me and he said to me, "Have you been saved?" And I said, "No. I wasn't as quick as you." He said, "Is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?" No, that was his words. He said, "Is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, then you, are you sure?" I said, "Yes."
Are you sure? I love that.
He said, "So Jesus Christ is not your Savior?" I said, "No, I believe he was a great prophet, but he was not any different from me as a man walking on earth." Christ said, "You can do what I can do and more."
He did.
And he looked at me and said, "Well, if you don't believe that, you're going to go to hell." So I said to him, "Yeah, I've heard of that place. I love it. It's a hot place. I like hot places." And he just looked at me like I was absolutely balloony. Mm-hmm. And the leader walked up to him because he was on the fringes, and he tapped him on the shoulder and he said, "Leave that guy alone." And he turned around and he walked away. Yeah. That was the end of it.
When the vibration doesn't work, you can't maintain it. That's the thing. And he was trying to maintain his negative vibration in the face of your positive vibration, and that just doesn't connect.
It won't work, no. Yeah. It's quite interesting, the heaven and hell thing, because of my Catholic upbringing and what I'd been doing, even though they were relatively small on the big scale of what society would consider bad, I knew I was going to hell. I'd just done a few too many things. I was selling that pencil sharpener when I was 4 years old. And all the other things, I was a thief. And all the rest of it. And had sex before marriage. Never mind. So I was definitely going to hell, and I just saw hell as a big black, or my death, saw death in general as a big black wall, and I couldn't penetrate it. As I thought of death, I just saw a big black wall.
Mm-hmm.
And at that stage, of course, it was very much a know what you don't want, really want to know what you do want. I really wanted clarity on what was the other side of that black wall of mine.
Mm.
Okay, consequently, the out-of-body experiences, the death experiences that I help people with, and all that kind of stuff, kind of fitted into that after the very strong desire to understand what is this life all about? How does it all fit together? What's going on? But one thing people must understand about the law of attraction is that you become very, very, very confident. You become a power vessel to be able to help others to a degree you had never dreamt of. You get to a place where you're so confident, you're so in alignment that you don't even really have to help people. The bits and pieces of the puzzle just come to you and everything falls in place and it just rolls and rolls and rolls. And there's really very little trying, and because there's almost no trying, you've got your oars in your boat, you're going downstream where everything is at, and you're just sailing, and, things that you want come to you, experiences which you didn't expect come to you. The thing about the law of attraction is, and this is something that I've been thinking about recently, is because you're vibrating more at a positive vibration, you are creating around you a force field. From the law of attraction point of view, you might as well call it a force field of the vibrational level of where you're at. Okay?
Oh, I see what you mean.
And that force field, when you're focused on what you don't want, goes smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And you focus on what you do want, goes bigger. And then only people who are of the same vibration can come through that force field.
Mm-hmm.
Or higher.
Right.
Okay? The others get bounced off, or they come to you when they're at a higher vibration.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because I think it's important for people to understand how the law of attraction protects you.
This is true. It is very protective.
So you could fall into a river and roll down a waterfall and have the most horrendous experience, but you can be totally unharmed.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're in that place of safety and all the rest of it. You've heard these guys in the lion's den where the lions all around them, but don't touch them. And
right.
There are lots of kind of stories like that.
Not that we recommend anybody climbing into lions' dens. I want to make sure we make that very clear. We do not recommend that you climb into lions' dens. However,
if you're in alignment, I don't have any problem with that, but make sure you're aligned.
Well, that's just it. That's why I don't recommend it, because I can't guarantee that the listener is going to be in alignment. But, what you're talking about reminds me of a story my father taught me from a religious perspective. Now, my dad we were not Catholic, we were Protestant. And my dad was very religious, but he wasn't rigidly so. He had there was a malleability to his thought process. So it's not like you were dealing with this really rigid personality. But he had this one story that he loved to tell that I believe he learned in church. The story of what life is like on the other side. And it's an allegory, so it's not 100% accurate. But on the other side, it turns out everybody has these sticks running through the sleeves of their shirts so that their arms are always extended like this.
Okay.
And it's true regardless of whether you're in heaven or in hell. And the problem for the people in hell is that when they go to have dinner, they can't eat because they can't pick up the food. Whereas in heaven, everybody's cooperative, so they feed each other rather than trying to feed themselves.
I like the analogy.
Yeah, so the analogy is be cooperative. That this is what good religion teaches. And when my dad told me that story, my reaction is, why do they have sticks in their shirts? Why would anyone want to live like that? Why is that their choice? I don't understand why they're choosing that. So the analogy was kind of lost on me. But that's what I was thinking. And that's what a lot of the messaging, how a lot of the messaging that I hear from religion affects me and has affected me from day one. They set up these series of assumptions about how life is. And I say to myself, but the assumptions don't make any sense to me. How can I buy into your teaching when the assumptions don't make any sense?
Give me nice stories and not ones that are just warped.
Well, that's
Give
why
me something simple and practical and down to earth.
When I first heard Abraham, it was the first time that I ever heard someone talking about life on the other side, and it made sense.
Yeah.
I got the feeling, very clear feeling, they weren't trying to pull the wool over my eyes. They weren't trying to deceive me. They weren't trying to get me to buy into some ideology. They weren't trying to get me to be manipulated in any way. They were just saying, well, this is what goes on. This is how things work.
And I thought, I love those guys that come up to Abram and they say, Abram, I don't really believe in, there's life after death. And they say, well, who do you think's talking to you?
Okay.
I'm living proof or dead proof, whatever you want to call
it. Right. Well, there are a lot of people who have trouble with that concept, actually.
Of course. Yeah,
the concept of non-physical beings having blocks of thought sent to a physical being who is receiving that block
and
of
translating
thought
them
and
into
translating
words,
it into words. And it's like, yeah, right, sure, okay, yeah, I was born yesterday.
Yeah. Until you've listened to a couple of 100 hours of the Abram Hicks, you don't quite put two and two together that well.
I didn't have to listen that long. I mean, literally, after the first hour, I said, yeah, who cares about the stuff about non-physical beings being received? The message makes so much sense. You don't have to believe
Somebody came to me the other day who's listened to me for a long time and said, I really don't like listening to Abram Hicks. I much prefer listening to you. Why can't Esther just speak? That's what they said. And I said, okay. So I said, the way I've always looked at it is I don't care where I get truth from. Truth from. It can be a newspaper. It can be from any individual on the planet. It can be from a Bible. Or it can be translated through blocks of thoughts from a non-physical entity to a physical entity. I don't care. What I do care about is taking what they say, put it in practice, and if it works for me, it's mine, and it's not theirs anymore.
That's right.
And believe me, the Abram Hicks teachings is not Abram Hicks's anymore. It's mine.
It's yours, yeah.
I'm a living example of it. I live it. I understand it. I teach it. Mm-hmm. And that is the process that you go through. You go through the confidence that I can listen to anybody, anywhere, and I will stop them. I'll get them to clarify what they're saying. And if I like and if I agree with it, I will add it to my collection and I will move on and I'll teach it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think it's the smart way to do it.
Don't care where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important. If you tell me it has to come out of the Bible, I will turn around and walk away. If you tell me it has to come out of the Quran, I'll turn around and go away. If you tell me it has to come out of any specific thing, I'm not interested because that's not what I come to know as true. For me, you can get it anyway because we're all part of God's stuff. We're all part of it. Mm-hmm. Every bit of it. The computer can teach me things. A glass of water can teach me things. Anything. Anything.
That's true. We have actually our first question, believe it or not. And it is actually, it touches on what we've been talking about. But Siraj is asking, have you experienced any experience about opening of the third eye chakra in meditation? Actually, I'm curious about this. I've heard a lot about opening the third eye chakra. How does it feel, and what is the best technique to experience this? And I say that this is similar because there is a certain, I don't want to call it religious, but there is a kind of an informal grouping of people who treat the idea of chakras as something to not be avoided, as something to not be ignored. And if you're ignoring it, you're messing yourself up. And it's not nearly as bad in the sense of, it's not nearly as in your face as many religions are, but that aspect does exist. And so I figure in that sense there's a connection there. But he's curious to know what our take is on this third eye chakra thing. So I'm going to ask you first. What do you think about all that?
It's a big topic which I've been going into quite a lot recently. I will start with where Abram comes from when it comes to chakras and third eye. It's interesting to know where they come from. I always like using their point of view. They are of the opinion that there is so much of our physical body which we have not even vaguely begin to tap, that any cell and every cell has the potential of everything. They have mentioned quite a few times the solar plexus as a place to spend some time focusing. When it comes to the third eye, they say there is a gland there. It does exist, and you can access anything any way you want to, and it's up to your limiting belief structure, which is going to stop you doing anything from seeing dead people to out-of-body experiences to auras to whatever you want to do. In the end of the day, you're still going to get a contrast. You're going to know what you don't want. You're going to move to what you do want. Now, you can do that quite happily with all the senses and things that you have at the moment, or you can flood yourself with more input and get a little more confused or maybe clearer depending on how you go about it. So there are so many parts of the physical body that you can tap into in so many different ways. Jin Shin Jitsu, just holding the fingers, etc., has been extremely illuminating and step 3ing for me, which has helped me in so many other ways. There are so many depths and breadths to Reiki, to meridians, to chakras, to swirling vortexes of energy on your body at different places. In the end of the day, you still want to play with contrast, and it doesn't matter where the contrast comes from or how much input you come from different areas.
Right.
Why get so hung up on all of that?
Yeah.
Okay. To go into the third eye, Suraj, they talk about, imagine a unicorn coming out the top of your head about there and out the back there. So it's literally a straight line through your pituitary gland out the back. That is step 1. So you hold those in a little fist like that and you try and pull them out. And then you do them left and right, and then you do them forward and back. Okay, and then there's another one, top and bottom, which generally aligns by itself. And then there are the pituitary gland either becomes very open or becomes closed with a calcium deposit that goes over it when you go through puberty. And if it doesn't close up and get this calcium cover over it, then you get the waves coming through easier, and you become quite a psychic individual. But if you do, like most people, get this calcium protection, the calcium protection stops all the waves going into you, which stops you seeing beyond or into the non-physical realm. And this comes from the Mayans and some of the other old people. And this little method is done on all their children to open the third eye along the way, and I have played with that a bit myself with reasonable success. Again, you can play with the contrast at any stage, so don't get too hung up on trying to get further with this whole opening your third eye. You'll find a lot of people who haven't opened third eye just want it closed. Okay? You just get too much coming in from all different angles, and I don't want to see what they're doing. I don't want to know that they're lying to me. I just see too much. I see too much. So, if you feel inside yourself, when somebody's lying to you. You can just use your emotions. Does this feel good? Does it feel bad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Wow. I don't have to see it. I can actually feel it,
Yeah.
So we've all got the guidance system, and it's running, and it's working perfectly, as Carolyn May says. You've got so much guidance, you don't know what to do with it. Mm. People think, I don't have any guidance. I'm not intuitive. And Carolyn Macy, who's a medical intuitive, is just saying we've just got so much, we just don't know what to do with it. And then you start understanding, once you understand that the emotions are your guidance system, then everything fits into place. It just starts fitting into place now. But the contrast is your teacher. Your contrast is the expansion. The contrast is what helps that vortex grow. And the vortex is what Abram says, is a growing vortex is the growing of source. And the growing of source is our ultimate goal. End of story. Game over. So that is something that I need to come to terms with. That our ultimate goal is simple expansion, and that's it. And I imagine if I sat in front of Abram, they would just say, well, that's just the way it is, and there's nothing much anybody can do about it. It's just the way it is. So it still seems interesting to me that the ultimate goal is simple expansion of source. So Yeah, it's great. I mean, if that's the way it is, you know, and I'm open to anything. I'll look at anything.
I agree with you. I would actually take it a step further and say, well, okay, you ask, how does it feel? How does that third eye feel? That was his question. How does it feel? And my answer to you is, how does it feel? It doesn't matter how it feels to me. What matters is, how does it feel to you? I mean, if you're asking me how it feels to me, actually, I don't feel anything at all. You know, if I try to focus up there, I get nothing. You know?
Yeah.
So do I spend a lot of time on that? No, I don't spend any time on that. I'm not getting any feeling there. So I just say, well, I'll just move on to whatever the next thing is. No big deal. I used to do stuff like that. I used to get hung up on, you know, well, and I've actually talked about this probably too much on the show, how I don't visualize well. You know, I try to visualize, and I get these little faint images. They don't last very long. I can't create. I was amazed when I found out people were able to create an entire detailed image in their mind and hold it there for, you know, lengths of time and so forth. I thought, wow, why can't I do that? And then I finally realized it doesn't matter. I don't get.
Oh, Walt, you're broken.
I'm broken, yes, right. Oh, no! Oh, my God, I'm broken. But it doesn't matter, because I have other things that I can do that it turns out people can't do. I mean, it turns out I have.
And that's what makes us different.
Yeah.
And that's why the vortex will expand in so many numerous different ways.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he asked, well, what about Tai Chi meditation? Same thing. Same thing.
Okay, I've done Tai Chi for years. Tai Chi brought me into out-of-body experiences because I started dreaming Tai Chi. In my dreams in Tai Chi, I started to become aware that I was dreaming. From the aware that I was dreaming, I started flying through the arms of chairs and all over the place. And then I started running and jumping and then landing in the air and then flying around, becoming a Superman kind of guy. Tai Chi is beautiful. It really aligns your energies. And, of course, alignment on an energetic level helps with the alignment that Abram's talking about, which is centering, becoming in a happier place, more positive, clearer, etc. So Tai Chi is beautiful. Movement and meditation is beautiful. So the question I would ask yourself, Suraj, is which one of these different methods that I can play with, because the world has got so many. You've got yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, you name it. Kung Fu I did for 7 years, was beautifully soft, incredible teacher. And I've done Tai Chi and I've done yoga, so I have quite a large experience of all of those. My yoga teacher wanted me to become an instructor as well, and that, interestingly enough, fell apart. There's a long story about yoga in my life. So from a young age, I was able to do very advanced yoga positions and things that I haven't even seen yoga teachers been able to do with my stomach. So the question I'd ask myself, Suraj, is which one of these feels better for me? And if it feels better, go that way. And if it stays feeling better, continue that way. And when it stops feeling that good, then turn around, move away. This is what I really wanted to get people to understand with the law of attraction, is when you're starting to really work with your own guidance, you can move quickly. All right? You can go into something, learn something, turn around, go another direction, learn something, go around, go another, and you can move and move and move and move and move. You be flexible, and people will keep up with you, and who cares? Because you'll be keeping up with the next people that are in line with who you now become, and not necessarily with those who are behind. You might leave family and friends that you've currently got behind, but you'll make family and friends with people who are moving in the direction you're moving.
And of course, I would add, and you don't even have to measure it. I mean, we often try to measure, you know, how am I following this person well enough? You know, who cares? What difference does that make?
Yeah.
The only thing that matters is, like you're saying, how does it feel? How do you feel about this stuff when you try it? You know, so if you're interested in trying Tai Chi to see how it feels, that's a good reason to try it, to see how it feels. If you're interested in Tai Chi to find out what other people think about it, why are you wasting your time on that? Because it's not going to tell you anything.
Absolutely.
All it's going to tell you is whether or not it worked for them. That's the extent of it. It's what you do with it that matters. So, I mean, it's kind of like when somebody says, well, you know, I'm trying to manifest X. How do I manifest X? Well, you focus on X. And it just seems so simple to say it that way. But then you find out that what they're really saying is, well, I'm not manifesting X because I'm really focusing on Y and Z, and Y and Z is really, really important. It's dragging me down and it's getting me all upset and so forth. Y and Z is the reason why I can't get to X. And like you like to say so often, no, it's because you're not focusing on X.
Yep.
It's just it. So, don't worry about what somebody else thinks about the third eye. Don't worry about what somebody else thinks about Tai Chi. What do you think about it? Try it. See what you think. If it works for you, hooray! And if it doesn't work for you, next.
But there's no harm in asking somebody, what do you think about it and how do you feel about it?
There's no harm in it, sure.
That's how you pick up bits and pieces and move forward, and then you get a better idea if you want to have a look at it or don't.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just saying, don't make that the basis for your understanding. Make your basis doing it, being there, part of it. Yeah.
So I'm going to go to Tai Chi on Thursday. My club's got Tai Chi and they do it only once a week, unfortunately, but now my daughter is in Croatia. I've got a little more time to go play with these things. I've always been very fussy about my teacher, so we'll see.
Okay.
Sometimes I just have to be quiet in the class and just get down and focus on what I want to do in there. Because I've had some amazing yoga teacher. My yoga teacher, very interestingly, she called herself Siddhi, her yogic name. So she would make you do the whole class, all the different things, and she had Shavasana in the beginning, a little bit of physical yoga, and then some pranayama, which is breathing yoga, have meditation, and we'd have all four in an hour and a half, twice a week. And it was amazing. I mean, when I came home, my girlfriend at the time said, "I don't know who you are when you come back from yoga, but I don't like you."
Okay.
Because the vibration was so ramped up and so different that she couldn't, feel me anymore. I just felt so like alien to her. And it was interesting. It was really, really very powerful yoga, and I'm quite an advanced student, and I loved it. Yoga is incredibly powerful, very, very beneficial, and specifically pranayama.
All right.
So yoga has different stages. It has yoga is a huge collection of things. You get doing your duty yoga. You get yoga that focuses on the sound, the inner sound. You get yoga, hatha yoga, which is the physical yoga. You get pranayama, which is the yoga for the breathing. So yoga is a huge topic. When somebody thinks yoga in the West, they often just think physical exercise, but it's so much more than that. Any other questions from Raj?
He says, I'm just concentrating on our podcast shots. I think he just tied two concepts together. I like that.
Shots.
Shots of podcast.
Is he having some drinks too?
Yes. Hey, before we run out of time, I want to make sure, I haven't gotten the announcements in lately, and I want to make sure I do it today. If you're not yet a subscriber, become one. No reason not to, because you get all these episodes for free.
Absolutely.
Right to your smartphone. Really easy to do. If you don't see the links in the description where you're seeing this, just go to the homepage, loatoday.net. And then once you're a subscriber, make sure that you're sharing with people who you think might be like-minded, who might be interested in this stuff, because that's how we pass the word along. And feel free to send in keep those cards and letters coming in, as the old phrase used to go. Because we want to hear from you. We want to be able to address your questions. So even if you can't listen to the live stream, share your questions by Twitter or Facebook or Messenger or email or whatever, and we'll be glad to include them on the next podcast that come up. And those are the messages. And I normally take like 4 or 5 minutes. I got that into 45 seconds, so I'm very proud of myself.
Fantastic. It gets smoother as you get practiced.
You do, yes. It's an amazing thing. And Suraj says it was an awesome conversation with you, and thank you very much for your valuable time. So another person helped.
Suraj, we love you. Take care. Have a great week.
Yes, and you have a great week too. I mean,
you too.
I look forward. I like these podcasts we do every Monday morning. They give me a good pick me up, and I appreciate you. So I just want you to know I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you too.
All right, and we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Carpe diem.